What's up everyone, John from ARTV. Wanted to share some brief thoughts on the new Kendrick Lamar project, Untitled, Unmastered. It's the follow-up to Pimp a Butterfly, his highly successful rap album that picked up 11 Grammy nominations and a handful of wins as well. Extremely impressed with that project, just as great as Good Kid, Mad City in my opinion. I should have rated it a 4.5 out of 5. At the time I rated it a 4, but I've definitely upgraded my thoughts on it since then, and just sitting with it for the past year, which is crazy to think that it's been a year almost since To Pimp a Butterfly dropped. With this new project, Untitled Unmastered, I feel like people are going to get preconceived notions about it that just are not true. They're going to think, oh, it's just a collection of just throwaway B-sides that he didn't want on the record. It's just going to be a random track here, a random track there. But that's not the case at all, and I think that that is fantastic because Kendrick Lamar once again surprises us with something that is just as excellent in a lot of ways as some of his past material. Maybe it's his weakest stuff to date, but at the same time, for a project called Untitled Unmastered, so supposedly being B-sides, this is just some excellent stuff. Now on this album, I'm going to have to say that it still feels very connected, and that even though these songs are demos, songs that were tried out for To Pimp a Butterfly, and sound very similar in nature in terms of their jazzy tones and kind of that euphemism that is used all throughout, there's still a connected storyline that I'm really enjoying here. It goes from everything like end of the world apocalyptic on the first couple of tracks to lovers' quarrels on Untitled 6, and even on Untitled 8 dealing with like the pressures of the industry and the money and about how it doesn't always satisfy and how there's still a feeling of like a hole inside of you just lingering. And I think that Kendrick comes through with some really solid rhymes, but not only that, he comes through with a different state of mind and maybe his most politically aimed and charged project to date. Some of these tracks had been partially debuted in the past, like Untitled 5 at the Grammys, which just blew me away. I saw that live and all the cutting camera angles and everything that was going on with Kendrick's performance, mixed in with a medley of All Right and The Black or the Berry. It was just, holy shit, one of those best moments that you see on TV in terms of live performances. Of course, I would expect nothing less from Mr. Lamar at this point, considering all of the fantastic work he's done on things like Stephen Colbert, and we see that once again, part of that track that he debuted on his show comes in the form of Untitled number 3, one of the best songs on this project. Racism is definitely a huge topic that is dealt with once again, not only on this track, but really all throughout the album. On Untitled 3, he's talking about different perspectives, Indian, white, Asian, and he gets into the whole thing with the white man wanting to make $1 off of him and his culture, and it seems like he is kind of battling and rebuttaling that with his own, hey, I'm still doing my own thing here, I'm still making money for not only the white man, I'm making money for myself, but he seems kind of conflicted in terms of how he actually feels about that. He says later in this same album on Untitled number 8, the closing track on this thing, you're walking around with these blue faces, got the new money, but it's breaking him down. Not only him, but all these other rappers, his friends, maybe J-Rock, Absol, all these people that are blowing up now and their careers are kind of skyrocketing, but at the same time, the money isn't necessarily filling that void. Religion is another very important and another schematic tool that's used by Kendrick Lamar here on this project, starting right off the bat with track number 1, the Untitled number 1. And he's kind of talking about throwing that in there, just the facade that he sees straight through some of these things, backpedaling Christians, settling for forgiveness is one of the lines that he dropped, and it just seems like he's kind of prodding for answers. He's disgusted with some of the things that he sees in life, not only in religion, but just really in the system. He sees it abused, he sees things that are injustice, he sees police brutality, and I'm loving hearing how he's wanting to basically face this head on. He's one of the only rappers that I see in the game that is not only smart lyrically, but is actually wanting to do something and campaigning outside of the world of music to actually make a change. And I think that's one of the reasons that I respect him so much. You'll probably recognize a familiar voice from To Pimp a Butterfly on Untitled 05, and that comes in the form of Anna Wise. Really nice voice, very soothing. It goes with this song and the jazzy instrumentation just so well, and I have to praise it once again. all throughout. Loving the bumping bass lines, the drumming that goes along with some of these, especially once we get into the verse on track 5. Kendrick is going, starts bringing the fire. I got 100 on the dash, 200 in my trunk, and the drums are just thundering here. I'm loving that, and the little peppy bass line that's going all throughout, just really shaping up this track to just be phenomenal. Once again, it seems like he's debating religion here and not doing it necessarily in a totally straightforward manner, but at the same time, I'm loving how some of the moments are subtle, some of them are a little bit more in your face. He says things like, I used to go to church and talk to God, and then he's kind of talking about maybe running away from his problems. You talk about speeding away in a car, it might not necessarily just be that, it might be running away from the things that he's not exactly sure how to tackle head on. Something else that I picked up on that I thought was pretty interesting was the correlation of his sign, his astrological sign, the Gemini, and it comes into play mainly because he does discuss his birthday, being born, being set apart. His mother told him he was special, but he knew he was actually special, and he kind of capitalized on that. But on tracks 2 and 6, he mentions his astrological sign, the Gemini, and his indecisiveness that comes with that. And I thought that it really came into play big time on track number 6 because he's talking about this potential lover, this relationship that he's kind of diving headfirst into, and he's talking to this girl about facing her insecurities, being okay with herself, but at the same time realizing that he's not perfect either. He has his qualities that make him maybe not the perfect catch. And I like the fact that we're throwing something in there that does fit the theme of the record, definitely doesn't stick out in terms of its instrumentation. It blends in quite nicely, actually, and is turning into one of my favorites. But I like the fact that it's not all a certain subject matter. We also get a song that's a little bit more relationship driven, even if there are some correlations to other parts of the record. It definitely feels very connected. There's callbacks all throughout, and there's other moments on here that really get the job done. I guess the final track left for me to discuss is Untitled number 7, which is a moment that definitely is the longest song on this project, clocking in at over 8 minutes. It was produced by the son of Swizz Beatz, which is only a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old produced this song. What am I doing with my life that a 5-year-old is producing something of this caliber? It sounds actually pretty phenomenal, honestly, if it's truly solely done by him. At the same time, it's one of those tracks that does work in kind of a 3-part scenario, and it's one of those that definitely goes for jarring feels. Some of it's more stripped back, just Kendrick messing around with some of his friends, but the opening part is the part that really grips you. He repeats the line, levitate, 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 and I think a lot of that has to do with the success that he saw on his last record, To Pimp a Butterfly. It's one of those things where he's just kind of elated, this huge rush that flows in because you're on top of cloud 9. You hit it big. But at the same time, he realizes that things like this aren't going to get the job done. He says, drugs won't get you high like this. Love won't get you high like this. For free, his own song won't get you high like this. And it seems to be a reference to not getting the job done in the way that he wants to. He's frustrated because his voice wasn't heard for so long. He put out 3 records, and the third one is the one that finally got the point across to not only his fan base, but really just to mainstream media. The third verse sees Kendrick kind of taking on a personality similar to the song You off of To Pimp a Butterfly, at least in terms of his performance and the way that his voice sounds on this track. He's kind of dragging words out, and I really, really like how that kind of gets the vulnerability across and just kind of the almost apathy that he's trying to push. I don't think that many people will have that hard of a time agreeing that this is once again another fantastic job done by Kendrick Lamar. There's some moments that don't grip as much as others, but I don't know, there's a lot of quality here. There's some fantastic rhymes, the jazzy instrumentation, the guests that he brings on, like Anna Wise, SCA, J-Rock, of course. It's another LP that might be misleading to some, like I said, because of the title, Untitled, Unmastered. And if these tracks are unmastered demos, you know the kind of fire that Kendrick is bringing on his actual studio albums. For me personally, like I said, I already upgraded to Pimp a Butterfly 4.5. Feel the same way about his other 2 records, Section 80 and Good Kid, Mad City. For me, this is just a slight notch below those with a 4 out of 5. Pimp. Hooray. If you've heard the record, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments section down below. Another project from King Kunta, the master bringing the fire. Of course, you can leave suggestions for other reviews for me to do in the comments section. Smash the like button while you're here and subscribe to the channel because, friends, Don't let friends go unsubscribed. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see the last review that I did, or my review of To Pimp a Butterfly, they're right there, or else the links are in the description down below, along with all of my social media links. Thanks for watching. I'll see you very soon, right here on ARTV.